Ted Ryman in Cape Town, first one on from the comments. Hello, Ted. Cape Town, South Africa. Michael Frank. Hey, Ted, you got to work on getting some youth match racers up to the GovCup. We got 7 countries this year. Andy's going to tell us about that in a minute. Gordon Smith in Denmark, who's cheering for Jeppe Borsch, or is it Bork? We're not sure, in Denmark, in the Congressional Cup, from Denmark in the Congressional. Michael Frank, hello. Michael's back here again. Julie, a nice comment welcoming everybody. John Emmett, a nice report from John. It's going to be down in the C block today because we're going to cover the match racing. And with our live guest, Andy Rose, who is standing, as usual, patiently by in Newport Beach, and we'll be with him in a moment at the top of the show. Christopher Gillingham in Leamington with his wife, Jane, saying fair winds from Leamington. Cheers from the Bay Area, Ed Worley is saying. He's up here, I guess. Pedro Foiling Sailor in Sydney. We're going to talk a little bit, we'll revisit the 1977 America's Cup, Pedro, and Australia won as we get this one off the dock. Hi, everybody. Welcome to show number 611. I'm really kind of jazzed about this one because we have my longtime friend Andy Rose standing by down in Newport Beach, as we said there in the intro. My co-host, Commodore of the Beach Street Yacht Club. Andy's a member of the Beach Street Yacht Club, Commodore.
Indeed.
So we haven't had him up here in a while, but hopefully that will be sooner than later. And we're going to talk about the Congressional Cup, and I hope Andy can stay on for a little bit after we cover the big announcement from Andy. Is he's going to reveal, this is a worldwide live exclusive, kids are watching probably to see if they've been invited by the selection committee, of which Andy is a member, for this summer's 2023 Governor's Cup at Balboa Yacht Club in Newport Beach. We'll get to all that in a minute.
Newport Beach? Long Beach?
No, the Governor's Cup is in Newport Beach.
Okay.
Congressional Cup in Long Beach. And the Yacht Club is technically in Corona del Mar, but that's really that's kind of a suburb of Newport Beach, a village.
Yes.
Before we get into all that, we want to thank very much Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin, the Secretary General of the IMA, the International Maxi Association, who was our esteemed guest, Julia.
Yes.
And as always, a terrific guest. We got up to date on COVID, thanks to Andrew, and talked then about the Maxi Association, a little bit about what's going on this summer in Europe in the big boat world. And I hope he's coming to the Stag Cruise again this year.
Yeah, that would be great for both of you.
I keep trying to get Andy to come up to Stag Cruise, right, Andy? We'll get him up here at some point.
Recovering from the one I went on 15 years ago.
We'll get to Andy in a sec, but thanks again to Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin for, it was a great show on Tuesday. Most of them are pretty good, Julia, but I thought that was a particularly
It was good, yes.
good one, don't you think?
Absolutely. I started to watch it, didn't mean to watch it all the way through, and just couldn't stop myself.
That was at 3 in the morning or something. You're not supposed to wake up at 3.
I know.
3 in the morning, Julia. Got a lot of people on here waiting for this big announcement from Andy. We've never done it live before. This is the first time we've had Andy on live to make the announcement of the invitees, the selectees for the 2023 Governor's Cup. J. Frederick Bland, the sun will come out today briefly with rainy weather. Everybody talks about the weather. He is in ATX, which of course is Austin, Texas. Boomer Bland, he was a submariner, a submariner.
Mm-hmm.
Julie Ahrens likes your scarf, Julia Vedekind.
Oh, thank you.
And I noticed that you're in yellow. Andy is in he's not as bright as I got to brighten his shot up a little bit, but he's in robin egg blue. So I wore my pink shirt to kind of chime in here. And it is spring. Spring has sprung here in the northern hemisphere. Clark Chapin in Plymouth, Michigan has already liked and shared and asks everybody else to do that. Thank you, Clark. Graham Sweeney is being surveilled by the Russians. He's been sending me the ink about the ships going up and down off Foggy Yell, Shetland, Scotland. Apparently they're all over the North Sea and surveilling. Yes, I'm serious. Surveilling, Julia, the pipelines and the undersea cables. They've had a couple of dodgy outages and cables that they're blaming maybe on, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Tim Rossi. I wonder if he is one of Andy's. Timotei Rossi, I think, might be one of the people who Andy is either going to select or not today for the 2023 GovCup. Welcome, Tim, from France, and so on and so forth. We will get into it after this opening segment, which we like to do. What is today, the 21st of April, 2023? It's every year on the 21st. Do you know? Well, let's bring Andy in too. Do you know, Andy? Do you know, Julia? What is today, the 21st? What is celebrated today?
It's the first day of spring.
Huh?
Friday.
There's the reveal. It is international. It's not 420 Day almost. It's International Hemp Day.
Huh?
International Hemp Day is celebrated every April 21st to appreciate the benefits of hemp and what it has offered to us. Did you know that hemp has been used in manufacturing clothes? Yes. Ropes, of course. Shoes and paper as far back as the 5th millennium BC. I did not know that. Hemp, also known as industrial hemp, is a cannabis plant mainly cultivated for industrial and medicinal purposes. Unlike marijuana, hemp has a low amount of THC, tetrahydrocannabinol, the active ingredient in weed and pot, the chemical compound that causes the high in marijuana. Hemp has many industrial applications, including cordage, of course, bioplastics, I did not know that, shoes, paper, clothing, and hemp. Have you ever heard of hempcrete?
No.
The hell is hempcrete? Is that like concrete?
Sounds like it.
Andrew?
I have no clue.
Nor do I.
I have a different kind of substance, but similar in my desk drawer here.
Oh, yeah? Medicinal.
Medicinal.
Its seeds are consumed as healthy food, the last sentence there, and its seed milk can serve as an alternate to dairy milk. Hemp, alongside bamboo, are the fastest growing plant. I did not know that. Of course, you all know that this, courtesy of the Knott's Manual, hemp has been used for thousands of years for rope because of its the natural fibers, and it's native to Central Asia. China was the first, apparently, to grow the plant and make it into rope because it's ideal for rope because they are durable, strong, and mold and UV resistant. They don't stretch, well, not much, but are still flexible. Hemp is cheap, so it's an excellent alternative to today's expensive synthetics. It's also better for the environment. Now, I love this next picture. I hope our British friends do too. But if you look at this picture, whoops, I don't want one too far. Let's go back. Where is my next picture? I've got a picture of, with any luck here, we'll get it up. And it is a picture of a British warship. I don't need that music, do we? I don't think we need the music. And I'm going to get it straight to that British warship and the Revolutionary War in this country. And here is that slide.
My grandpa's farm, which was in northern Illinois, had neighbors who grew hemp during World War II.
He did?
Mm-hmm.
Well, as we said, it is a rope, but I did not know this. You see, I love this because it's during the Revolutionary War, and the British ship has been taken down by an American ship. The British colonies were compelled by law to grow hemp. Did you know that, Andy?
I did not. That actually was before my time.
Yeah. But you went to Stanford. You and Julie are supposed to know these.
Between the two of us, we do.
Well, apparently
something similar at Stanford.
What's that?
We focused on a similar product at Stanford.
And hemp arrived in colonial America with the Puritans in the form of seed for planting and as fiber for the lines of sails and caulking of the Mayflower. British sailing vessels were never without a store of hemp seed, and Britain's colonies were compelled by law to grow hemp. Hemp was the fiber of choice for maritime uses because, as we said, natural decay, resistance, and adaptability to cultivation. Each warship and merchant vessel required miles of hempen line, hempen, I didn't know that word, and tons of hempen canvas, which meant the crown's hunger for the commodity was great. Ship captains were ordered to disseminate hemp seed widely to provide fiber wherever repairs might be needed in distant lands. That's everything we know about hemp, and that is today, International Hemp Day. It's also tomorrow, and if you're down under where it's the 22nd, today is Earth Day, which seemed like a natural segue, Julia. From
Yes.
hemp to Earth Day, which we'll celebrate.
It's all connected, right?
Won't we celebrate that here at the Beach Street Yacht Club tomorrow? We won't.
No.
Okay. That brings us to our features segment today. We've already brought Andy in, but his beloved and my beloved, actually, is my favorite yacht club in the world, with all due respect to New York and St. Francis and Fort Worth and any number of others, my home club in Michigan. This is, Julia, do you know, Andy will know, of course, this is, of course, the Balboa Yacht Club, but do you know, is that the sun rising or the sun setting here on the West Coast?
That would be the sun rising.
That would be the sun rising, because the way California is shaped down there, it's looking to the right of that photo is actually the south. And it seems whenever I'm there and the sun comes up over the kind of the water almost, it seems like it's the west, but it's not.
That's correct.
It's the sun coming up over the esteemed, beautiful Balboa Yacht Club, host of the Governor's Cup for what, Andy? 50, how many years?
100, and this is our 101st year.
Ha!
The Governor's Cup is this is our 56th. It's actually the 57th year from founding, but we had to cancel in 2020.
Because of COVID, of course.
Because of COVID.
So it's the club's 101st year. That was celebrated. Commodore Paul Blank, who's a good friend of ours and a member of the Beach Street Yacht Club, was Commodore last year and did a fabulous job. And this summer will be the 56th
56th Governor's Cup.
Governor's Cup 2023. And we have a little bumper video to play in honor of that.
Constitution.
Yes.
Jeffrey Peterson there at the end of that video, who won it a couple years ago, and I will see if he's lucky enough to be invited back this year. Andy, tell us about this famous picture from some number of years ago at Governor's Cup when we had, what, the 50th? Is this from the 50th?
Yeah, that was the 50th, and Tom Eamon was greatly responsible for that. I had the idea of there used to be sort of a progression until the America's Cup went into rather strange yachts that didn't care about match racing. A number of us went from the Governor's Cup to winning the Congressional Cup and then sailing in the America's Cup. Some won and some of us didn't win the America's Cup, but won the other two. And so Tom was kind enough, he was Vice Commodore of the Golden Gate Yacht Club at the time, the holder of the Cup, and was able to bring that down. And then through our relationships with Long Beach Yacht Club, they brought the Congressional Cup down. That's the first time Congressional Cup's ever been on Long Beach. I should say the Congressional Cup, which Tom's going to get to in a little bit here, is really our big brother, if you will, or big sister. The Governor's Cup was founded by Chet and Lee Purcell after Chet went to the first Congressional Cup. So they're 2 years older than we are, but they were patterned. The Governor's Cup is patterned after the Long Beach Yacht Club Congressional Cup.
An historic moment, the GovCup, the Am Cup, and the Con Cup, as they are affectionately known. And speaking of the America's Cup, some of you will know that our guest today, Andy Rose, has raced in the America's Cup. In fact, famously so, because he was the first American to sail for the Foreigners, for a foreign team in 1977. Andy, I thought maybe you would relive some of these memories for us. This is actually the defense trials. Your team, Australia 1, KA5, against
Sverige, Pelle Pettersson. Pelle is a superb sailor, designer. The most interesting thing, we were able to beat them relatively easy, but Pelle was always a revolutionary, and so he liked to steer with a tiller. That's the only 12 meter at the time, and I'm sure since then, that has ever been steered with a tiller. And then he had basically using legs instead of arms for the grinders. So it was a pretty revolutionary boat. We were able to, when we finished that, we were all, Pelle is still just a great guy. And he invited us from Australia to come over and sail on the boat going into the harbor. And we did. And I was just blown away by how wonderful the tiller felt. It was like steering a little boat, except that it was almost 70 feet long.
Now, I want everybody to know, Julie, as you know, we didn't have time in our tech check to go through the slides. So Andy is doing this all off the cuff. He doesn't know what I'm going to throw at him here in the next few slides. 77 was Feria, and they were the first boat they were cyclers. I think they had them in 80 too. Was it 77 or 80, Andy, that they had I think I said a minute ago, they were using their legs in Sferia.
Yeah, it's 77 for sure. And I'm not sure in 80.
Okay, we'll get Andy's volume up just a bit. Thank you, Stingray. And that was Feria. This was your boat. This has been rehabbed. It's down at the at the Royal Yacht Squadron, the Royal Sydney Yacht Squadron, correct?
I believe that's correct. I've seen pictures of it, and I've seen that picture. And yeah, it was a beautiful boat. Bob Miller, Ben Lexon, and I say that because for those of you who know, Bob Miller was the designer of Australia One, and before that, Southern Cross in 1974. He then changed his name to Ben Lexon, which is sort of a long story we don't have time for, but it's pretty funny. And at any rate, Bob Ben, this was his first boat, 12 meter after Southern Cross. Southern Cross was a long, relatively heavy 12 meter, which allowed it more sail area. Pretty good in the breeze, but no match for Courageous. This boat was a small, much lighter, boat, and it was good. But in 12 meter thing, we would sail then 24.3 mile courses, and we, I think lost one race by 45 seconds or something like that, which is not a lot, but it's enough in 12 meter terms. I finally got my opposite tactician, Gary Jobson, to admit that we had a little edge at the starts after 20 years. But no, Gary and I are great friends, and we probably did have a little edge at the starts, but that they would just slowly pass us, and they just were ever so slightly higher and ever so slightly faster. Some of that was because of the sails, but Courageous also because of the Courageous design, which Courageous is still one of the greatest 12 meters ever.
And that was Gary Jobson as tactician. You're opposite. He's sailing with Ted Turner. But before you got to that, there were the defense trials, famously good defense trials in 77. Do you remember, I'm sure you do, these boats on the left?
Sure. Yeah, we're going to be sailing against both of them here this summer. We're going to sail in with my crew from California in the 12-meter Worlds on Defender. But this is Enterprise right behind with Courageous with a lee bow position and Enterprise. The hull, I think, was really good. Lowell North, who we called the Pope and was a genius, kept sort of screwing around with the sail plan. So for a while, they had a really short fore triangle, et cetera, et cetera. They never quite got it together because I think they didn't stay with the same configuration consistently. And so, in what was considered an upset at the time, Ted Turner and the Courageous crew were able to win the Defender trials. And they did that on the same day we won the Challenger trials. And so all the crews were great friends. So we had a big luncheon the next day where the two owners, Ted Turner and Alan Bond, tried to outdo each other on what they were going to order for their crews.
And this was an amazing Cup, 77 Newport. And of course, we lost it in 83. This was Alan Bond's, his second challenge?
Second challenge. And a lot of the crew we had in 77 stayed on and went all the way through 83 when they finally were able to win the Cup.
So you got into the finals, you didn't, but Courageous, Turner, and Jobson got into the finals against Hood and Independence in 77, and they had great competition. It really helped tune them up, but the New York Yacht Club was not too amused. They were not too supportive, if I remember well, of Ted Turner, the mouth from the south, Captain Outrageous from Atlanta.
No, it was definitely, there weren't he didn't have a huge number of fans there, but he gained more as it went on. But he took advantage of that. He and Gary and the crew did a great job. They would leave the dock playing the theme from Rocky, to show that they were the underdog and, coming out here. And it worked. And the crew, every one of them are rock stars. So he had just a superb crew. And the Independence crew was good too, but to be perfectly honest, in the, in 12 meter stuff, Independence was just a little bit slower. And, only twice in 2 or maybe 3 times in history has the slower boat arguably won the America's Cup. And that was certainly true in 12 meters.
Well, speaking of the match now, so you got to the match. You're an American sailing with the Australians for the first time that an American was sailing with a foreign team. So upset in New York that when I ended up in Newport a couple of years after that, the first thing they asked me to do as a bit of a rules guy and then executive director of USYRU was to draft a rule to prohibit, well, not to prohibit, but to require nationals be on the boats from the respective countries, really to stop you. And I called it, or we called it, the Rosé rule in your honor.
Yeah, I'm a footnote in America's Cup history. I want to go back to that picture you just showed, though, that painting. That is by far my favorite rendering of anything that happened in that cup, because as you can see, we're quite a ways ahead at that point. So that was obviously just after a start.
So tell us what did happen in that series.
Well, it was 4-0. They beat us every race, but I'll tell you, it was close enough that we never figured we were out of it after any race. We had some North sails, and at that time, North was really just breaking into the 12-meter stuff. Hood sails were by far the most used. And our sails, we just were slightly off the pace. Downwind, we were great. The spinnakers were actually better than the Hood spinnakers, but at that time, the course had 2 reaches instead of all upwind, downwind. So I think we would have done a little better. We would not have won, but I think we would have done a little better had we had just windward lewards.
The 1977 America's Cup match, Australia KA5, leading Courageous here off the starting line in one of the races. Courageous was just a click faster?
Yeah.
And went on to win 4-0. The America's Cup, of course, was held in September of 77 at Newport. And it was a 4-race sweep, but it was a much closer series than that, right, Andrew?
Yeah, it was. We were in it, but happily one race wasn't finished because we were not in it. That one, the wind died almost completely, and Australia just stopped, and Craig just sailed away with us. Had they made the time limit, it probably would have been a record. But other than that, it was a fairly close series. But there was no question that they had a slight edge, and good for them. That's a tremendous crew, and Courageous is still, as I said, one of the best 12s ever.
Great series. Let's segue now to the Governor's Cup and get into this year's GovCup. And you've got an announcement to make. But first off, bravo Zulu to the club. You've got how many entries from how many countries?
Well, I was actually wrong in what I told you before this, because I counted them again. It's actually 8 countries will be represented in this Governor's Cup.
Not 7. Cool.
Not 7, 8 countries, which is more actually for the Youth World Championship, which is a relatively new event, started in 2014.
Yeah.
They have never had, and it's 1 per country theoretically, but they have never had 8 countries represented, and we are about to. So it's pretty exciting.
No, that is fantastic. Let's go through the by country, start alphabetically with the Australians. Let's go through the list, Andrew. And bravo Zulu to these kids, because it's a real treat. It's a real feather in their collective caps to be invited to the Governor's Cup. Just before we get into this, Andy, run through some of the names, some of the famous people who have been in the Governor's Cup, Jimmy Spithill and so on, who are alumni. And of course, you've won it a couple times and went on to sail in the Cup. Who else?
Well, James Spithill, of course, is sort of the poster boy, but you can actually check the GovCup Racing. It's govcupracing.com. And in the section about us, there are little vignettes with pictures about a whole bunch of the famous people that have been in this. And, it goes from everyone from Silja Leitinen, who should have won, but it blew in the last day. And Silja was from Finland and had won almost all the round robin races, and went on to win a silver medal in the Olympics in the women's match racing. It would be unfair to name a few because there are so many, but suffice it to say that I'll mention 2 of the more surprising ones, perhaps, who are, tremendous dinghy and match racer sailors, but have also gone on, 3 of them that have gone on to, of all things, win the round the world race, which is about as far from match racing 22 footers as you can get. And that's Paul Kayard, of course, Mark Christensen from New Zealand, and John Kostecki. So it's quite a list, and I commend to you to go to the website because you'll see just a little summary and some pictures of each one of the some of the famous people that have sailed in it. You know, I first met just from some other L.J. Edgecombe, who was bowman on Courageous in '74 and '77, and beat us, of course, in '77. And L.J. and I were friends from the Governor's Cup days. So it's pretty neat. It has quite a history.
It does indeed. So let's go to the list, starting with the Australians. The first one, Max Paul, on the left here.
Let me do one thing before that, just so people understand how this happens. This is an event which is a resume-based event, and we have a selection committee made up of members of Newport Harbor Yacht Club, Balboa Yacht Club, et cetera. It's about a 5-member committee. We choose 12. We have 12 spots, basically 12 Governor's Cup 22s, which you can see behind me, are provided for the skippers. You can't reach your 23rd birthday by the end of the regatta. And this year we had almost a record number of requests for invitation. We had almost 3 times the number of requests as we could actually give places in the event. So the competition was tough. This was one of the toughest selection committee meetings I've ever gone through. I should show this spreadsheet here, basically, that I'm not showing it very well, but each one is a regatta that we rank when the sailors sail against each other, and that mostly happens in the United States, Australia, and New Zealand. We list all those regattas and how they did so we can compare results among people that are contending. So it's quite a thing. But the final thing I'd say is that we have posted criteria for the selection committee, and they include 2 things which were a big influence this year. And one is geography. We look to try to get as many countries involved with qualified sailors. We don't just choose them because they're from a new country. We choose them if they are qualified and from a new country. And then second, the older you are, because it's an age-limited event, we give some credit to how many years of eligibility you have left. So those 2 things figured this year probably more than in any other year in which I've been involved. So having said that, let's go to Max Paul.
And again, you cannot have turned 23 in the year of the competition.
The last day.
Yeah, the last day of the competition.
We still go with the last day of competition, which some of the Aussie and Kiwi regattas do. The Worlds are in that year, so we can go a little farther.
And explain why, because we get criticized by some people for, it used to be what, 21? 20?
Yeah,
21, and you bumped
20.
You bumped it to 23. I mean, the club did because of the number.
It was actually initially when I won the couple times it was 20. So you couldn't be 20 years old. Then we bumped it to 21, and that was basically in part for the drinking laws in California. And then it was very clear that, as the other regattas around the world, youth regattas were built, like the Harkin and the then Musto series in Australia and New Zealand, they had all bumped it to 23. And then World Sailing, when they started the World Youth Match Racing Championship, that was 23. So we went ahead and conformed ourselves basically to the under 23. So a couple of these sailors this year, about 3 of them I think are 22. Most of them are 20 and 21, and then we have 4 under 20.
Okay, so one quick question before we go. Has Chris Poole, who's gone through the Congressional Cup undefeated, and he's now up 2-0 over Nick EJ, thanks, Gordon Smith, has Chris Poole sailed in the GovCup?
Chris Poole has not, but 2 of the 4 semifinalists in the Governor's Cup, Nick EJ, Nick EJ and Jeppe Borsch, both have sailed in the Governor's Cup. Nick won. Jeppe didn't do that well, but he was younger then. And what I've seen in match racing over the years is some people get peak early, and some people need 2 or 3 years of experience to get good. And obviously, both of those guys are terrific.
Well, and the other semi, mentioning Jeppe Borsch, I don't know if it's Bork or Borsch. I texted with Gordon Smith in Denmark this morning to see what the proper pronunciation is. I've heard it pronounced both ways. But Borsch, is up 2-0 in his match. So it looks like it could be Borsch, and he's beating Ian Williams So we'll see how that goes. I'm covering it here. You can see some of the sponsors as their live television. They had some audio problems this morning, but let's get to your invitees, Andrew. The first one from Australia.
Okay, yes, Max Paul. Two of the major regattas in the Southern Hemisphere are the Hardy Cup, which is actually an under 25 regatta. So that's a little, can be a little tougher. And then the Harkin Youth Match Racing Championship in Australia. And they're two of the traditional regattas that we look to a lot. If you do well in one of those, you're almost guaranteed to do well in the Governor's Cup. So we've chosen Max Paul from the Royal Sydney Yacht Squadron. And we have had squadron competitors before, but this is the first in a while. So we're happy to welcome Max. Like a lot of these competitors, he's also a fairly adequate dinghy sailor, getting second in the 49er Worlds. So he's a first-time Governor's Cup competitor. We have actually a record 7 of those this year, first-time competitors. And this is his first and last year because he's 22, but we look forward to welcoming him.
And from another Australian, famously good sailor, whose brother has also been in the GovCup, Cole Tapper.
Yep. Cole Tapper was new last year. He's 20 years old this year. He won the Bowl, I don't know how to pronounce that, whether it's Bowl or Bole International Youth Match Racing Championship at the CYC in Australia. That is the former Musto event. And again, one of the probably 3 or 4 events that we look to with great interest, because if you do well in that, you're going to do well with us. And of course, he was first in that, so he should be. I would predict early on that Cole will be fighting to win the Governor's Cup this time. It was great last year because his brother Finn did sail with Cole. His older brother Finn sailed with him, and they did very well. They got 5th in Cole's first, so I expect him to be a podium finisher, if not the winner this year.
And maybe my at least sentimental favorite from Perth, from out in WA, he's got the best hairdo of anybody, and that is Marcello Torre. He's back.
Marcello had his first Governor's Cup last year. First is Australian stuff. He's from Western Australia, and I also have a soft spot because when we sailed, I coached the Australian team when I was 24 on Southern Cross, and the shirts we had were the West Australia flag, not the Australian flag. And, they're as far apart almost as New York to Los Angeles, and West Australia is really a different and truly wonderful place. Royal Freshwater Bay that Marcello represents has produced Governor's Cup winners, World Match Race Tour winners. It's a great club and has a wonderful match racing program and has done for some time. Marcello was 4th and 5th in the Hardy Bull and under 25 Warren Jones Regatta. Beat some of his fellow competitors in the Governor's Cup and will be, again, a strong competitor. He also is a great dinghy sailor, was 2nd in the Australian 420 Championships.
He is a hoot, too. He's really, I don't know all these kids. You've got some new ones, including this next one. We've actually featured Nicholas Bernal from Brazil. He's the skipper of the Lightning Youth World Championship team. We featured them on the show last summer. I think that they win one up in Rochester or in Buffalo or someplace, or maybe at the Canoe Club up in Canada. Nicholas Bernal, Andrew.
Yeah, I think actually he won the Lightning Worlds in Sheboygan, I believe.
Was it?
Yeah, I think so. At any rate, he is one of a number of champions in their own countries here. And Nicholas is the interscholastic match racing championship. He was the Brazil representative of the 22 World Championships. His match racing career really was just beginning, and he didn't do that great, but he was in there. The Lightning, of course, and he is a former Brazilian 29er and Opti champ. And for those of you that know, those two classes as do the 49ers, get huge fleets. So I think he won the Opti champs in Brazil against 160 boats or something like that. So anyway, obviously a great sailor, one of Brazil's top young sailors, and we look forward to having him. He is the 2nd Brazilian entry ever in the Governor's Cup. So we're excited to have Brazil represented again.
Good. I'm glad you said that because I was going to ask, do you remember offhand who the first Brazilian entry was?
I can't, and I'm sorry. Tom makes us prepare for this, and I missed my homework, and I didn't I didn't actually look back to find out, but at any rate, it's great to have Brazil back. We've had Argentina also.
I should only ask questions that I've already told you I'm going to ask.
Exactly.
I apologize. This kid is going to be good, and let's just take a quick moment here to say, and we talk about it, Julia, on the show all the time. The kids, and adults, but people who sail multiple classes. John Emmett tells us this.
Yes.
Go sail lots of different classes, big boats, small boats, dinghies, high performance, skiffs and slow keelboats. They turn out to be the best sailors, right, Andy?
Yeah, without question. The wealth of experience that you get is great. I think the thing I'm most excited about in the last few years is dinghy sailors of this caliber in these countries are now starting to match race. And it's exciting to see. And we'll talk about two guys here in a little bit that have relatively short match racing careers, but are already really accomplished. So it's very exciting.
Okay, next from Canada. Oh, Canada is Alec Coleman, and he's the tall kid on the right, and he's won in a lot of different classes as well.
Yeah, the amazing thing is, and again, in 56 years, I'm not sure that I have everything exactly right, but I don't remember at least ever having a Canadian competitor, and it's ridiculous. They're right next to us, and we were very excited to get Alex. Alex is RFI. He is the equivalent of our intercollegiate match racing champion. So he won the Canadian intercollegiate championships in match racing. He's won two other match racing titles in Western Canada. He's obviously spent this last year focusing a lot on match racing. So I expect him to do great. I should say something about Nicholas Bernal and Alec and a number of the other first timers here. They're clearly great sailors and among the best youth sailors in each of their countries. One nice thing about the Governor's Cup format is it's a double round robin with 12 boats. So you get 21 races before the semifinalists are chosen. So we've seen time and time again, one of these sailors, it's a really great sailor, but doesn't have the years of match racing experience, start off losing 2 or 3 or something in the first day, and then coming on extremely strong. So I have a feeling at least a few of these skippers are gonna do that again this year. One
other note I noticed when I was putting the show together, Alec Coleman, who is, as you mentioned, I think University of Toronto, and at least that he's been maybe to 1 or 2 different universities. He is, like you, a leader in the sport, like Julia, a leader, Commodore, and in your own at Stanford, you were both leaders in your respective classes. This kid is the vice president of the Canadian Collegiate Sailing Association, this kid, Alec Coleman. So bravo Zulu to him, the leader in the sport coming to GovCup for the first time, apparently, from Canada. And by the way, Mary Longpree is saying that the other Brazil competitor in GovCup was one of Julia's boyfriend's brother.
Yes.
Julia, you want to say who it was?
Torben Graham.
And no, Torben Grail's brother.
Yeah, right.
Do you remember Torben Grail's brother, Andrew?
It was a Grail. I don't remember the relationship.
And the sister's been winning.
There, yeah, but it's the famous Grail family, Grael in Brazil, who are, if there was a family championship in Brazil, they would have retired the trophy.
Right.
Well, Steve Groover, who is very knowledgeable, says it was Lars.
No.
Lars Grail.
That sounds right.
That does sound right.
Sorry, I didn't have that information.
Look, I don't know this. I don't know this Lightning sailor, this kid that's coming from Brazil now, but that we forget what a powerhouse Brazil is. Absolutely. And has been in sailing. I'll bet you this kid does well. I'll bet you he comes well prepared. What's his name? What's the Brazilian's name, Andrew?
Nicholas Bernal.
Nicholas Bernal. We'll remember that. Okay, now here's one we don't know much about, and this is Timothy, and he's on here, I think. I think he's watching. Tim Rossi from France, and another kid who's a great sailor in multiple classes and skiffs and 420s and opties and so on. So much so, Andy, let me play a video I found this morning because he and his, he was the crew for another French guy, and they were what the French call the vice champion at the recent, I think 2021, 420 Worlds. Hugely competitive class. Watch this.
We come from France. My name is Ange Delers and Timo Rossi from France. Oh yeah, silver medal.
Formidable.
Very happy from this result. Yes, it's a very good championship with a lot of win yesterday, with a great level. But it's important to stay focused and make good results for stay in the podium. Now focus to the European Championship in Formia. Yeah, in Formia in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, Andy's. The kids are having a blast, and I just love this video. What a culture France is for the sport, for sailing, and I guess he's on watching. Timothy, give us a comment if you are. Nice to have him on. Congratulations on their win, or their deputy, their silver medal, double the second place at the 2021 420 Mixed Worlds. Andrew, what can you say about them?
Well, last year in the Youth World Championships that was won by Jeffrey Peterson, Timothée was third, so a podium finisher in his first Youth World Championship. So that's
the Youth Match Racing Worlds.
Youth Match Racing, and then he was also, according to his resume, first in the Mediterranean Match Racing Championships. So, obviously has the match racing chops. I suspect, I believe he is a product of our friend Mathieu Richard from France, who's a Congressional Cup winner and is what I call the Dave Perry of France. Mathieu has spent the last 2 or 3 years trying to build a match racing, youth match racing culture in France, and it's obviously working. So I would put Timothée, I think, would also be one of the favorites in this year's Governor's Cup.
And we've had a gentleman called Timothée Poulet.
Poulet, yeah, last year, the year before, sailed in the Worlds when it was here. So it's a popular name in match racing for all you young parents out there. If you want your your young son to be a match racer, name them Timothée. Spell it either way.
Then that will make our friends in Fort Worth happy.
Absolutely.
Who's well, we'll get into that. Next up from GBR, Alexander, I guess it's Colquitt, and you see the quote there. I pinged John Emmett preparing the show this morning, and I said, "Do you know this kid?" And he said, "Yes." In fact, he also knows the Irish laser sailor coming up next. He said, this is a quote from John Emmett, "I just think the British keelboat program is an amazing opportunity for young people and brings out a huge amount of talent." Alexander, is it Colquitt or Colquitt? How do you suppose you pronounce that? Andrew, Julia?
I honestly don't know. I'd assume quit, but I'm not sure that's right. It may be Colquitt.
Tell us about him. What you know?
He is this year in a long line of the youth match racing champions in Britain. And we look to that. It's produced a lot of good sailors in the Governor's Cup. I should say the UK has won the Governor's Cup a couple times back in a little farther out. But anyway, winning the British Youth Championship is a big thing for us. We see that and we say, well, that's probably pretty good. He also got fourth in the non-age limited, the overall UK match racing championship. He was the UK rep at the 22 World Championships, which would have been one of his early match races. And also managed, as long as he was intercollegiate or youth champion match racing, he also was on the team that won the UK Universities Fleet Race Championship. So again, typical of this year's entries, a really good dinghy sailor. You can see from that photo there, but also already an accomplished match racer. Let me just say something on that quote, because that's exactly right. The British keelboat program is great because it gets kids into larger boats, slightly larger, with spinnakers, a keel, et cetera, early on. And so when they come to a regatta like the Governor's Cup, which of course is a 3 or 4 man keelboat, they start to feel right at home, as opposed to the sailors that have just sailed dinghies. It takes a little bit of to get used to, basically, to sailing with the keelboat.
Okay,
So
Andrew,
good-
now I'm going to
good
really
beginning.
throw a curveball at you because we're in the rubber match of Borsch and Williams. A minute 30 to go to the start, and Borsch is up 2-0, and he in the blue boat has been penalized. He's wearing a penalty as they go into the starting line. You might actually do some commentary here. This is Borsch against
Yeah,
Ian
that's
Williams,
not
the
a-
defending champion.
Against a six-time Congressional Cup winner, Ian Williams, getting a penalty before the start is not optimal, shall we say.
There's
This is a very typical, thing here. What the guy on the bow, what he's doing is basically calling, yes, there's an overlap, or no,
Okay, that's
there's
the
not
umpire
an
calling
overlap.
the
And so
distance
that was
between the
basically
boats.
saying, yeah, you can go wherever
As
you
the
like.
1 minute mark
For a while there, he was
has
trying to
passed.
establish an
Remember, Bork has
overlap
that
and
penalty to
perhaps
do. Williams,
push
thin
Ian
lay
Williams
line.
over, but I'm
Actually,
just
pretty
guessing
strong
here
lay line there on
that
starboard
Ian's
tack
timing
for the
is pretty
pin.
good. He's a pretty awesome
45
sailor, and also
seconds
he
to
has
go.
what we
He's still
call
20
a
seconds
lee
early,
bow
so he's gotta slow
position,
down.
where
Bork
Borsch
tight on the
cannot
tip.
stay there for very long
Look
because
for
the wind
Williams
is
to lock.
bouncing
Look for
off
him to slow down. That's
Ian
in the
Williams'
background. Here's
sails
Bork.
into Jeppe Borsch's sails. So,
And as you can see there in the lower left, the blue boat, there's one boat is yellow with a yellow flag on their backstay. You can see Williams has that yellow flag, the blue flag on Borsch. And in the pre-start, the umpires have penalized them, Andy, with 20 seconds
I
to
don't
go.
speak Danish, but I can pretty
yeah,
much
so I
tell those
can't,
guys.
we don't really
wound
get
up.
the view. We do, as you know, Tom, we do live coverage of the Governor's Cup.
Williams going for it on starboard to
This
the
is a
pin. 10
little hard
seconds to
because we
go.
can't
Bork
see
is
where the
tacked away
starting line
behind him.
is.
It's going to
All
be
the
a
boats-
split.
There we go.
It's great, but here we go. Okay, so that's actually going to be a
comes the
pretty
gun.
even start. I didn't realize they were that close to the line.
There
But,
it is.
pretty even
Bork
start.
off to the right of
question
Ian
now
Williams,
would
who
be in Long
immediately
Beach.
tacks to stay with him.
You
And
generally
even start
start
for both
thinking the
teams.
right
But
is the way to
remember,
go.
Bork, who's 2 points up over
and
Williams
so,
in the series.
maybe a little
now has
advantage
a penalty
to,
to undertake. First tack, first cross.
Borsch, who was on the right. And
Yeah, whichever boat was on the right. Sorry, it's a little hard to comment.
It's Borsch on the right coming back. Williams ahead of him. You can
Bork
see
started.
Borsch with the Danish flag on the
On board with
backstay.
Williams, who has to avoid.
Yeah, Borsch had to tack away at that start, and so initially, at least, the
is he gonna
right,
cross?
they didn't sail long
How
enough
close
to
is
get
this
a great
gonna be?
advantage. But the question
He's
in
got
Long
it.
Beach always is, when does it start to sort of favor the
So
right-hand
not only
side? Now,
does
that doesn't
Ian
look like
Williams
much
give
of a
Bork
lead.
penalty,
It's a big lead.
but he's just narrowly
Very hard
crossed
for
on
Jeppe
port.
Borsch
That's
to
a little
get
bit
past him at this
demoralizing
point.
too.
Okay, they're on leg one
Because the
of
port tack,
four.
you need an extra
There's pretty
length to
nice
get across the
conditions, it
starboard
looks
tacker,
like.
and that means
We'll
Ian
come back
Williams
to
has
that
got
in a
it.
second.
And
Let's go
then
back to our
he's got the
competitors.
right-hand
Anything else
side
on
of it.
the Brit, Alexander Colquitt, before we go to the Irish gentleman?
Nope, but we're looking forward, as usual, to have a British competitor. And Tom, as you know, a former Governor's Cup sailor and also two-time British youth match racing champion, Matt Whitfield, is going to be a co-commentator again this year. So I'm sure he will say nice things about Alexander.
Well, and as you know, Julia has a soft spot in her heart for Matty Whitfield, so he
yes.
stayed here a couple times at the Beach Street Yacht Club, and we'll look forward to having him as a commentator again.
Great
Now,
guy, great commentator.
Now, this guy, you talk about a class act. He is a hell of a good sailor, and another well known to John Emmett. He just says he's a bright, classy, good sailor in the laser class named Tom Higgins. How many people have had a photo online, a sailing photo in black tie?
It's a nice look. Maybe we'll mandate that for Governor's Cup.
I think the Monday night opening,
Yeah.
the Andy Rose roast of the teams, it should be black tie. Not.
I'm not sure we can have a roast this year because 7 of them are new, and I don't have any stories. I don't have any ammo on them.
Oh, that's
Anyway,
Tom Higgins from Ireland.
Tom Higgins, it hadn't been announced yet, but he is the Irish candidate for the Youth America's Cup, which is being held as a promotion for the America's Cup itself. And I believe that's going to be announced sometime in later this spring. But he is the Irish candidate, meaning the Irish National Authority felt he was the best qualified person to be the skipper for Ireland. He also is, like Alec Coleman and like Jack Egan, is an intercollegiate champion. He was the intercollegiate the champion in Ireland, so obviously match racing champion. So obviously he has some chops there. Also won I'm going to blow this pronunciation, the Dun Laguerre Match Racing League, Laoghaire Gaelic, and I don't do very good Gaelic. At any rate, obviously has the match racing chops. He's a great dinghy sailor, clearly one of the best youth sailors in Ireland, and we're very excited to have an Irish team. We've never had one before, I don't believe. So here we go.
Well, Neil Collingridge, who's a Brit, says it's Leary. I think the city or what was it? Was city we were talking about or a championship?
Oh, Leary. No, the Dunleary.
Dun
Oh, yeah,
Leary.
that makes sense.
Yeah, Dun Leary. There you go. Fog machine sink.
That makes sense.
Now, before we leave and go to the next sale, I see Tim Rossi, who's on here watching live and has left a comment, Julia. Did you see? He said, "Thanks for the invitation. Can't wait to participate in this legendary event." Timothée Rossi sounds like a class act as well from France, Andrew.
Right.
Okay, the next up from New Zealand, from NZL, is Josh Hyde. And
we have always, we've had I think the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron has the second number of winners from a club. And at one time they had more than Balboa Yacht Club. But at any rate, great club. Well, Josh is the latest product of a truly incredible youth development program at the squadron. I'll talk about that in a minute because it's sort of interesting. But he won the Harkin Match Race Series in New Zealand, and he won the New Zealand Youth Match Racing Championships. He wasn't a tough choice to get into the Governor's Cup. Their best is always among the leaders. I am confident he will be. And he is one of the younger sailors. He's only 19. Most of the rest are 20, 21, or 22. So he has 2020. He has 3 more years left after this year. And I suspect he'll do well this year. And so he could end up a 2 or 3-time winner of the Governor's Cup. So we're very excited to see him. He's also the Open Skiff champion. So again, stop me if you heard this, but a Governor's Cup match race sailor, also a very good dinghy sailor. So we're looking forward to having Josh.
And Steve,
unusual is he's the only New Zealand competitor this time. There were a couple other that applied, and the competition was just. I wish we could have taken all of the applicants, but we couldn't.
Well, Deborah Colquitt is on, and she's got a nice emoji there. So that must be Alex's what? Alex S. Colquitt? It's Alex, not Alec, I guess. Is that right?
Oh, really?
Anyway, Deborah Colquitt, who sounds like a mother.
Yes.
Or a sister or something. Thanks, Deborah. Nice to have you on. And back to the Josh Hyde photo, I found that the inset is from, he is probably 14 in Steve Gruber, and that inset, I found that online this morning, and he's obviously holding, without white gloves, he's holding the America's Cup. And do you know, Julia, Andrew, do you know the trophy on the left that he is holding? You'll see in the background of that photo, you see the gentleman in the background?
Oh, that's the Sir Peter Blake. Yeah, that's the Sir Peter Trophy. That's quite an honor. Sir Peter Blake was a truly legendary New Zealand yachtsman in the round the world race, and also did a great deal for the sport. Died way too early, but that must be quite a thing to get the trophy named for Sir Peter.
Well, and the trophy, and he won it, as we said, in 2017, and he does look like he's about 14 then. So that's, 6 years ago. And apparently that trophy is, as you said, Andy, highly prestigious. It's for not only performance, but it's for great attitude. And I like that. Not sportsmanship per se, not the team that, has the best seamanship, like we always gave a seamanship trophy out at the Sears Cup, but the attitude, the person who goes around and is helpful and nice and pleasant. Maybe we should have the Julia Vedekant trophy at the Governor's Cup for the best attitude.
What a nice thing.
Huh?
Yeah.
Josh Hyde, and yes, Neil Collingridge is saying that Deborah is his mum. Well done, Alex. Paul Colquitt is on too. I don't know who Paul is, but some family, so, presumably.
Would one of them tell us how to pronounce Colquitt?
Yeah, is it Colquitt? Like let's quit this this show, or is it Colquitt or Colkit, like KIT? Somebody will tell us, because when we get doing our commentary, Andy, we want to be correcto mundo.
Well, however you pronounce it, congratulations to Alexander, and we're looking forward to having another great representative of the United Kingdom.
And Paul is on here. That's his father. So that's terrific.
Excellent.
Andrew, next up, on one of our favorites, he's a terrific sailor here in this country. We're to the USA now, Jack Egan.
Jack Egan, well, a lot of these other Governor's Cup skippers have a single youth match race championship or an intercollegiate match race championship. Jack has 2 intercollegiate match race championships. And this last year had to beat, among other people, Jeffrey Peterson to do that. So Jack is a superb sailor from San Diego, product of their San Diego Yacht Club's also incredible development program for youth sailors in the Malin Burnham Center down there. Jack, I'm going to say something here. He was 3rd in the Governor's Cup last year, and I believe Yale, where he's going, also won the co-ed intercollegiate championships last year in dinghies. Jack currently, he gets an automatic invitation because he won the intercollegiates. Jack currently has a conflict during Governor's Cup. He is doing his best to resolve that conflict. It's a conflict. It's a nice conflict to have because it's to join the United States University team to beat, I think it's every couple of years, they do a series of team racing and perhaps some match racing against British universities.
Andy, sorry to interrupt.
Williams
It's like when the
coming back into
president
us.
walks to the podium. I think we're about to have a lead change
Close
here as
action.
Borsch has gotten across the top. He still owes the penalty, but has gotten across the
penalty
top of
flag.
Ian Williams.
Ian
On the
Williams
leg
has
two.
one
Like I
umpire.
said,
don't
I didn't
there was
think
a foul,
that Yeppe could get back in it with
There's the
Ian, but
protest, the
he
Yankee
has,
flag,
and there's a
yellow and
protest
red
claim
striped
by
flag
Ian
saying,
Williams.
okay, umpires.
So
we need a
let's see.
call.
So now they're approaching the mark, and so now, without going
flag
into too
more
much
if you're
commentary,
a bit
depends on where
nervous.
they are on the 3 boat length circle on the mark here. What Ian will try to do is keep them outside that so that he doesn't have to give room
Well, now
at
that's
the
great.
starboard
That's some
gate,
good
but it
advice
looks
from
like
Ian
he has
Williams.
not done that. So this is
Bork
going to
is
be, they'll
definitely
probably split on the
overtaking the
gates here.
lead.
And
Boats coming into the
race
lure
starts
gates
again.
overlap. And it's going to be a split up
Ian
win
is
with
slow.
Bork
Ian is
rounding
dead
Yeah,
first.
that was a terrible rounding. The other problem with that is when you pick that gate,
Fantastic
he has
job
to
by-
do literally
by Yeppe and his crew
180
there
degree
just to
turn,
make
while
sure
the
it
other
gets on
boat
that
only
breeze
has to
and
do about 90.
that was the long drive coming into the
90's
game, so
better.
well executed from the Danes.
Here they go up leg
just
3
hear a little
of
bit of
4.
desperation.
So Borsch now
boy,
thinks he's
Brits.
ahead. That's why he tacked there.
Yeppe still has to
But
get
they're
rid of
also
his penalty,
starting to
so there's a
feel
lot of
that,
work
yeah,
to do
maybe
in
the
this
right's
match.
favorite, so I
Wow.
don't want to get too far out to
And
the
the
left.
Danes sailed well.
Borsch, there, you see him on the screen. His team is up 2-0. This is the rubber match. If well, it's not the rubber match, but if they win this one, then they go forward to the finals. It's first to win 3.
I
Attention on
should
board.
say, Tom, to my friends at the
Danish
Congressional
boat, too. They
Cup,
look to
they were
my eye
kind
to be
enough to
wound
ask
up
me to be a commentator this
a little bit
year,
on
and
board,
I was
thanks.
unable
They
to
do,
do
they
that
look a
today and
little bit
tomorrow.
lifted,
But I guess I've become one anyway here.
And I do wonder if
And
there's still a
I
little
see
bit
that
more
Kenny
pressure
Sherb is on here.
because
Ken is saying, and he's
seems
been
like
our
we're starting to get
spotter
to that
and
point today
a
where
superb
the right
spotter.
side
He
is
calls
there.
himself, what I call
Less
him, the crack
velocity.
spotter, because I always ask him, but you can shake your finger, Julia, if he spotted any crack out there on the race course. But Ken Sherb is on as we watch that.
Under the rules,
And he
he's on
said he will
starboard.
make sure that he has our pronunciations down when
If
the
it's
commentary
close,
starts
if Bork is close
at
to
the
it,
end of
Lisbon's gonna
July
have to
for the
avoid, but
Governor's
Bork might be
Cup.
going
Here's
for
the
it. Might try to
cross.
cross here. Is he going to
And
get
it
it?
looks like
Mr.
Borsch.
Liebau, yeah, no point in chancing
Liebau
anything
tack.
there, so he just did a
That's
tack
the right call.
on
Yeah,
the
Yeppe
lead
will
bow,
be wanting to
forcing
let
Ian
the
Williams
rest of the way
away.
up this- to the
So
top
no
mark,
real
so
change
you
here.
heard
They'll
Ian
come back
Williams
together
there earlier.
again. The
Starboard
key
is
will
the-
be when they
is
get
the long
closer to the
board,
weather
so
mark,
you'd be
because then
expecting
you
Yeppe
run
just
out
to
of
take
space,
that and
basically. So
slam
at that
tap
point,
on,
that's
on
when the
starboard.
key maneuvers will be here.
Well, you'd want the right normally in Long Beach this time of day, right? It's 13, it's almost
Yeah.
1400 here.
Yeah, it's almost 1400, so you'd start expecting the right to be slightly favored. It's not like Newport Beach where, there's a little less favoritism here than in Newport Beach, but still boats are right together. You can see no change. Both of them are attacking beautifully, steering beautifully, and they're now, you may see more tacks because they're getting closer to the ley line and running out of space. And the key is to, and here comes Borsch back. The key is to, if you're going to do a lee bow position on the other boat, if you can be on the ley line, then you can, be ahead at the mark.
I like this shot, by the way. Chris Bretschker and I were talking about it last night, where they have the cover shot down on the bottom and then the onboard cameras on the upper left and right, so you can see the positioning of the boats, because it gets very confusing, as you said earlier, Andy, to see the relative positioning of the boats from the onboard cameras.
Yeah, we may well do that this year. We've done it before with onboard cameras some years ago, but you just got to use them in the right way in presenting this. Because if we just, for example, if that just carried on port tack for a while, wouldn't be very exciting. But the tacking duel it's great. And the pre-start, I would have been much interested to see the onboard stuff because sometimes you get some rather colorful language.
Indeed. Yeah, John Emmett is saying he still likes the drone shots, and we use the drones so well, Chris Bretschker and his team, using not one but two drones cycling in and out because they only last about 20 minutes of battery time. So but when one comes back to change their batteries, another one gets launched. It's a big operation, GovCup TV. We're doing that again this year with our 30 volunteers.
Yep.
Taking
Same
your
thing.
life.
Well, this is interesting. It looked, oh boy.
Say again,
Yeah.
Andy.
This is Ian Williams, for some reason, decided to go out to what looks like he's going out to the ley line, which is risky. He may have thought he was losing that tacking duel. And again, without drone footage, we can't really tell. But if he does go to the ley line and Jeppe is able to lee bow him, then he's going to be behind at this mark. Or worse, if he's behind Jeppe can tack right on him. So we'll see here. They're either approaching the ley line or that island. So one way or the other, we're going to see a tack here pretty quick. And there it goes.
It looks like Ian was out. It was a little softer there on the upwind right where he was.
Yeah, and that, I wouldn't be surprised at that at all. And that's a very typical thing. And it looks like Jeppe probably couldn't cross, but if they're on the ley line, he wouldn't want to cross. This is great. So maybe that Jeppe can still boat for boat. Okay, so actually Ian gained a little bit there.
Yeah, he did.
And if they're on the ley line, he's going to be ahead at the mark. Jeppe's hoping for a big left shift here. Probably not going to get much of one.
Now, I don't see the penalty flag in the indication in the lower left of that shot, so I don't know if they are still wearing a penalty. They should be on the commentary telling us that.
I didn't see any place that they could have killed it.
Agreed. Agreed.
See, this is all camera angle. It's a little hard to tell whether Ian's really gaining here. I know he's trying to stay up so he doesn't fall into the bad air. So they're not bow to bow yet.
And Steve Gruber is saying he's right. We need the drone to, where's the F and mark?
See, right. If we had the drone, we could tell where they are and give you a little better advice. But right now we just see how much their fists are clenched and they're yeah, it's
I think Ian's back. I think he's unless they're a long way.
He's definitely back, and you can see his luff.
Yeah,
just the luff on Ian's jib. He's luffing just slightly. He's trying to stay up,
Well, Jeppe's in high mode here.
Jeppe's doing a great job of just jamming it to weather.
Yep.
So both boats are going really slow now.
There's the mark between the two of them.
Yeah. So Jeppe has to hold on, and he can round the mark, and he'll be ahead if he can lay the mark. Meanwhile, Ian has to worry about just that. Look at how much his jib is luffing. He's falling right into Jeppe. Jeppe is doing a great job of just luffing right here. This is great, but you got to be so aware of how to get the boat going again, and that's the crew. Looks like he's done a great job.
And he's going to throw in a big luff here now.
Yep. Is he going to lay?
The mark now is to lure to Borsch behind his jib.
Oh, I think Ian's almost tacked. If he's almost tacked, and Borsch could get on that port tack thing, he can hold him out forever. But if they're laying, Borsch doesn't need to.
Nice shot. Now we got a drone shot.
I think it's close, but I think they're laying. There's a drone. Mm-hmm. And now you can see how close the boats are, and Ian's going to be forced to fall in behind Jeppe. So again, showing no overlap, so Ian can do whatever he likes here. Jeppe, no doubt is trying to get rid of his penalty here fairly quickly because he's running out of real estate.
He's trying to set a mark trap in.
Yeah, he's trying to set a trap here.
Yeah, they're Pinchathon, Gruber is saying, yeah, they're well above they were well above the ley line. They're not now.
Right. Well, that's what you want. The boat behind, especially carrying a penalty, you want to make the race as long as possible, just to have every chance. Ian is doing a great job of staying away from him, and that's exactly what he should do, because if he's that close on the downwind leg, highly unlikely that Jeppe would be able to get enough of a lead to kill the penalty then. So he's interested in just staying away, but staying close.
Trying to keep his bow clear.
Jeppe is interested in fouling if he can. Well, it's a good thing that the last couple on our list for Governor's Cup are automatic invitations. So we don't. They already know they're in.
Well, this is cool stuff. You want to stay with this for a minute, or do you want to go back to
Sure.
the?
No, we can stay with it for a minute. But yeah, you'll see. We've seen. I did commentate last year in the Congressional Cup, and we've seen. The match racing level with these skippers is so good. We've seen a number of races which went well past the weather mark, with exactly the same type of situation where one boat was trying to kill a penalty, and so didn't care about saving the course, at least quickly, just to try to get that penalty back to kill it. So now there's quite a bit of distance between the boats, and here comes. Okay, Borsch is going to go on to. Oh, I'll tell you what. That was either a great move by Williams. Can he get over him? If he could just get his bow out.
Did Borsch touch the mark?
I don't know.
They cut away from the drone shot 5 seconds too early. See, there's another penalty. There is another penalty, I think, from the umpires. Or is that already the penalty he's wearing?
I think that's already the penalty.
No. He's got it. He just took a. What's he? Oh my God! What's going on?
Oh, we need Chris Bretker directing here. It's a little tough to figure out what's going on.
Well, and Tucker Thompson and the commentators.
Let's see what happens. He is allowed to luff, and now
there's a touch.
Yeah, there's a touch, and the weather boat must keep clear. So that would technically be a penalty on Ian Williams. The question is whether it's also a penalty on Yeppa for not trying to avoid collision,
or for touching the windward mark.
And
there's the penalty. There's the penalty on Williams with a red flag. Yeah,
he must do that.
He's got to do it immediately.
I can't even tell if that was a red flag. Yeah,
it was a red flag.
He has to do his. That was a penalty which gained him an advantage. He has to do the turn right away.
Yep. He better get on with it.
Yep. Yeah, it's starting to be not right away.
The question is still whether they're still wearing a penalty, a blue flag. I guess not, because these would have offset.
Right.
Now there's the penalty being taken by Williams. The other advantage is, Andy, when we're doing the GovCup commentary, we're out on the Bretschker,
right,
the big boat, right up, close and much closer than being on the Harry Price Memorial Pier.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's a great venue. The Congressional Cup venue is awesome because it's one of the few match races in the world you can actually, be a spectator on the pier and see most of what's going on. But in Newport Beach, that really isn't possible. You would have to compete with a whole bunch of fishermen at the end of one of our piers. So we like to be on the water. But boy, this is a great match race without question.
Well, we promised our viewers live action from not only your announcement of the selectees, the invitees, but the question Steve Goober is asking, we're all asking, does Blue still have a penalty?
Yeah, that's.
I'm going to go to Tucker's commentary.
Yeah, fantastic action. There's no better place to be, and like Lisa Meyer touched on it before these flights. This is a grandfather event of world match racing. So, yeah, all the more importance to be here and enjoying it.
And just wild to see Ian Williams and team kind of attacking a little bit too hard, it looks like, and ending up taking the penalty and a red flag at that.
One and press. Yeah, no, statistically, Ian's the one who ends up on the right side of most of those altercations.
Well, a great job by Yeppa Borsch. I think we can probably.
It looks like he's not only clawed his way back in the lead, but he doesn't owe a penalty. I would hope that there would be a flag in the lower corner indicating the penalty like we do at GovCup now.
Right. No, I think they do that. So I think he must have gotten rid of the penalty. Sorry, we couldn't cover it a little more closely to you, but we did the best we could here. But I think we better go back, Thomas. I've got another.
Okay, so let's go back. It looks like Yeppa Borsch is going to win his third match and go forward to the finals, ousting Ian Williams. Five times that Ian's won this thing, Congressional Cup?
5 or 6, I can't remember.
I think it's 5. I think it's
He's
5. This
five.
would have been his 6th. Okay, so it looks they're a little resigned looking on Ian's
Yep.
boat. Okay, let's go back. We just were talking about Jack Egan, and our next American is probably the home club favorite anyway. He's a Fozy, been on this show any number of times, including fairly recently, Jeffrey Peterson of Balboa Yacht Club.
Yeah, Jeffrey Peterson last year had one of the more amazing years in youth match racing. He won the World Championships the year before. In 2021, he won the Governor's Cup. He got second last year. And in 2021, also, he won the United States Youth Match Racing Championship. So Jeffrey's clearly one of the best young match racers in the world and among the best. The nice thing I would say is that, as proven by Nick EJ, Chris Weiss winning the Ficker Cup, youth match racing now is coming back to where it used to be, where the youth match racers are pretty much as good as any match racers in the world. So, Jeffrey gets in because he is a former winner. Any former winner of the Governor's Cup that is still eligible is automatically invited. And Jeffrey would clearly be a favorite, but he would only be a co-favorite. Let me go back to Jack Egan, though, for a second, just to explain, because we're going to segue into the last of the invitees, and that's by regatta, not by human being yet. Jack, if he can resolve that conflict, then Jack will be in the Governor's Cup. But if he cannot resolve it, and we should know in a couple of weeks, then Jack would not be sailing, and the first alternate, who we've named, would be into the Governor's Cup. But first, let's talk about the last automatic winner, and that will be the winner of the United States Youth Match Racing Championship for the Rose Cup, which will be held in June in Sheboygan in Sonars. If you're going to get selected to sail in the Rose Cup and file a request for invitation with the Governor's Cup, then you are eligible to, if you win, you get into the Governor's Cup. This year, only 4, which was interesting, only 4 of the 8 competitors actually filed with us. So the odds are pretty good in getting in. We named the first alternate the runner-up from the Rose Cup. Let me tell you why. It's these 2 gentlemen right here. Last year in the Rose Cup, I think Tom, we did our GovCup TV broadcast it live on the water, and I think Tom would agree that the best of 5 finals, which took 5 races, best 3 of 5, which took 5 races, was one of the best match race finals I've ever seen at any level.
It was the best.
Yeah, it was truly amazing. And both these sailors, Morgan had just started match racing the year before, and of course won the Rose Cup, which was the U.S. Youth Match Racing Championship. Justin has won as a world champion, among other things, not in match racing, but in dinghies. It was Justin's first year of match racing and only Morgan's second. When we were commentating in those finals, it was like I would say, well, this is what Morgan should do, and they would do it. This is what Justin should do in response to Morgan's move, and he would do it. The races were very close. They were incredible. The match racing skill already of these 2 sailors is amazing. And both of them are also national championship world champions. Morgan went over to sail in 505s in the world championships in Ireland last year. And it was his first time racing a 505, which is, as you Fozies probably know, is an incredibly competitive international class. He went out and out of, I forget how many boats, he won the first race.
Yeah.
I think he ended up 3rd or 4th in the series. I mean, that's just unheard of. Our friend Danny Thompson is one of my partners in the boat, was a podium finisher in the Worlds. I think they're a good bookend because Danny was doing that in his early 60s and Morgan did that when he was 17 years old. Yeah. So great sailors. And one of them will almost certainly get in. There are 2 other competitors in the Rose Cup that qualify. But if last year is any guide, when Morgan got first and Justin got second, I wouldn't be at all shocked to find them in first and second, one order or the other this year. And the winner will certainly get into the Governor's Cup if Jack Egan cannot resolve his conflict, or if any of the other teams has to drop out, then the first alternate will get in. So at least a good chance that both these gentlemen will be in the Governor's Cup. I'll tell you, that was one of the toughest things, because if we could have taken 13, we would have. Or if the Rose Cup was before we made the selections, I think the results would have gotten them both in. but one of them at least will be in, and I would guess that there's a good chance that both will. And we look forward to seeing Morgan for his third Governor's Cup. He didn't do that well last year, but look forward to seeing him and or Justin Callahan, who in his first year of match racing proved that he's going to be a great.
And Justin, of course, the son and twin son of a favorite New York Yacht Club friend of ours, terrific guy, leader in the sport. And Justin is finishing up his freshman year at Harvard.
Yep.
Very bright, very, very bright guy, as is his brother. And Morgan is a senior in Newport Beach?
He'll be starting next year at Yale.
And he's going to Yale.
I would venture to say that the Northeast Interclass Sailing Association match race regatta this year, which gets you into the national intercollegiate match race thing, I'll bet the Northeast is going to have one heck of a match race series.
Nice stuff, Andrew. A couple other slides that, again, I didn't have time to prepare you, but Disc Spine, Sports and Spine in Newport Beach, a Balboa Yacht Club member, Dr. Rob Bray, is sponsoring again this year. This is the Pinckney boat from last year, but Morgan Pinckney there, Newport Harbor Yacht Club, but I really showed it for the branding of Disc Sports and Spine. Tell us about that outfit and Dr. Rob Bray.
Rob Bray is a superb neurosurgeon, and frankly has kept me in yachting. He worked on my back. Tyler Woke, our superb bowman on my 50-footer and on a lot of other boats. He also worked on Tyler. So we are testimonials for Disc Sports and Spine Center in Newport Beach and in other locations. Rob is a sailor. As he says, his wife's really the sailor, but Rob has been sailing a lot, was the team doctor for Oracle America's Cup campaign, is currently, I believe, the team doctor for Grand Prix. So, great guy. I should also mention, Tom, I didn't let you know this, and I should have. Terry Causey and the foundation Call of the Sea, which has a big restored barkentine in San Francisco. Terry is now going to be co-presenting sponsor this year. So we're very pleased. Terry's been a great competitor. A great sponsor in the Governor's Cup, and we're ecstatic to have him increase his already more than generous contributions. So,
wow, congratulations.
We'll have that logo on. And then, of course, Jack Crowell is the third, won't be a co-presenter, but he'll be I think he's an admiral sponsor or whatever the next level up. Jack has helped us forever. When we first built the new Governor's Cup boats the first time, the Governor's Cup 21s, Jack committed immediately buying a full boat. And his letter to me with the check said, and if you need more, let me know. Jack also got a full boat in the Crowell family. You can see right behind me. Got a full boat in for the current boats, the Governor's Cup 22s. So I've got to get out of here, Tom. Thank you.
Just Andrew, hang on. Yep. I'm directing the show, not you.
Okay.
But just lean to your right just a little bit, and then the branding behind you to your right.
The other right.
Yeah, there you go. Well, either way, Crowell, you can see the branding for the Crowell family. That's great news. And as important as it is that Rob Bray, Dr. Bray, kept you and Tyler Wolk and others in one piece so you can keep sailing with your backs and so on, he also has kept Jimmy Spithill competing. He's been Jimmy's doctor, and I think any number of other sailors have repaired to Newport Beach to be repaired.
Well, both, Jimmy, actually both James Spithill and his brother.
Did Tommy get fixed?
Tommy got fixed, and he is hopefully, again, going to be one of our co-commentators for the Governor's Cup. We're hoping to have him back. And, Tommy's been under the knife with Rob, but he's awesome. But anyway, we're very pleased to have all three of those guys and all our other sponsors, which will be listed in the brochure and on the website, et cetera.
And finally, Andrew, I've got to go to this. I don't like this picture. But I'm not worried about what I look like a crouton with my hat on sideways, Julia. But this GovCup TV team, which now for over 10 years now, we started out, as Andrew well knows, Julia, as you know, with an iPhone out on the water before you could stream as we do now through the internet and up through from computers and so on. You could only stream from an iPhone or not even an Android phone, just an iPhone. And that's how we started out, little white triangles. Jeffrey Peterson was helping us. This was before he was sailing in the GovCup. And it was so popular, particularly, Andy, with the parents and grandparents
Of the sailors.
Yeah.
of the sailors.
My favorite story is many years ago. One of the sailors, international sailors, talked to me afterwards and said, I really thank you for doing that. He says, my mom and dad have been estranged for some years, and I don't hear a lot from my dad, but he just texted me and said he was watching, and that, if for only him and that family, this is worth doing. But I think the most fun thing is that we know at least the Royal New Zealand and the squadron, they've had watch parties at the bar. And so, we like that.
Yeah, it is. So the GovCup is this July. What are the dates? And we'll be doing the usual 10 shows starting Monday night, running through live racing on Friday and Saturday.
Yep, starting the 24th with the Monday night opening, July 24th, and going through to cover, we do morning shows every morning, and then we cover the racing Friday and Saturday all day. We do the press conferences both those days and the trophy presentation. But we start with the Monday night dinner, which is it's sort of fun. But again, I've got to do some homework because 7 of these sailors are new, and I don't have enough ammunition on them. But I'll get it.
That's the fun part, right, Julia?
Yep.
You love those shows.
You have an opportunity now to ask for some.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's like
right,
pulling. That's like pulling teeth, though, getting stuff out of these kids.
Yeah, it is. It's better when they each tell stories on each other because they know they've done a GovCup or two and they know each other. Well, Tom, the final thing for me is that I really appreciate that you and I got an opportunity to practice our commentating here today.
And not only that, but we are going to, Andrew, we're going to start, as we did last year, and it was hugely popular with the friends and families of the competitor. We do this for the friends and families of the competitor. We're going to start, again, Julia, Road to the Governor's Cup, and we are going to interview live on the show, or live to tape maybe, and then air it on the show on Sailing Illustrated on Tuesdays and Fridays, each of the 12 competitors.
Nice.
And then later, do you want to talk about what we're going to do later in the year, or do you want to hold off on that?
I think we might, I think we'd go ahead and I think it's become common knowledge out here, but we're going to help the National Sailing Hall of Fame and the Sailing Museum in Newport, Rhode Island, Balboa Yacht Club and Newport Harbor Yacht Club are going to host the induction weekend, which involves a Friday welcoming cocktail party, the induction mid-morning on a Saturday, and then a celebratory dinner that night. And we're going to do some coverage of that to help those two organizations. I am honored to be a director of the National Sailing Hall of Fame. And with our executive director, with our chairs, Tom Wooden and Gary Jobson, who I think you've probably heard of, most of you, and our unbelievably awesome executive director, Heather Rusham. We're going to put on quite a show, and I think it'll be great for the inductees. Inductees will be announced in late June, and I'm sure it'll be the usual stellar group. And so we're looking forward to that.
Good. Well, I'm looking forward to that too. That's toward the end of the year in what, October, is it?
November, actually. I think it's the 4th and 5th of November.
Oh, early November. Andrew, thank you very much indeed. It's always a delight to have you on the show. And notwithstanding that you and Julia both went to this fancy private school down south of here, and I just went to a simple public school, and it's always intimidating for me to be on here with two people from Stanford who are so worldly and so bright.
Oh yes, you better.
Well, it's intimidating for both of us to be on with you, the guy that controls the microphone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew. Take good care.
Yeah. Thank you.
Andy Rose down in Newport Beach with us for this GovCup thing, and the GovCup TV. That is a terrible picture. It's the last time I'm ever going to use that. They're making big fun of me, Julia. Did you see that? I don't know. It's at the end of it's the final day. We've been doing this for 11 days, and we've been working morning, noon, and night. And I looked like I had been, ridden hard and put away wet. My hat is anyway. We're just delighted to have Andy on and to have these 3 cups. We've been featuring a little bit. I didn't know we'd go live that much, but that match was pretty good. The TV is done. There is what's coming off. So Congressional Cup is done for the day. It's 2:25, or maybe it's just done for the moment. I don't know, but I guess somebody will know on here. He's Chris Poole undefeated? Let's go look at the comments. So maybe it's done. Maybe they are both now have won their semis, and the finals are tomorrow night, the prize giving. So maybe that's it.
Poole wins 3-0.
Is that, where does it say that?
Gordon Smith says that.
Okay, thanks, Gordon. So Poole has won, and he's undefeated. Bloody hell. Astonishingly good stuff from Chris Poole. And if Andy hadn't blasted off, I would have asked him about the curse of the undefeated. You know, it's considered a superstition, Julia, to win the practice race at a big Olympic regatta. And John Emmett, we've talked about that. You win the practice race, and then it seems like the winner of the practice race never wins the actual event. So a lot of people will drop out of the practice race. And remember Jeffrey Peterson in the Ficker Cup last weekend went undefeated. Then he got into his semifinal and he lost. So it seems like maybe Chris Poole is
on his way.
Well, he's on his way, and that rule is proof of the pudding is that is a superstition, not necessarily the real deal. Okay, so this is show number 611. For Friday the 21st, we're at almost 2:30 here, 14:30 in San Francisco. Thanks to all of you around the world who have joined us for this show. I do still want to talk about Congressional Cup. It's kind of old news now because we've been covering it live. That fabulous shot of the drone shot of Long Beach Yacht Club in Long Beach, California. Another one of our favorite clubs in the world. This is the Belmont Veterans Memorial Pier, which is just down the shore a bit outside of Alamitos Bay. That not only is where the Congressional Cup has been held for any number of years now, but it's also the venue for the 2028 Olympics, thanks to John Arfosi, John Sangmeister, and others who have organized that. It's going to be cleaned up a little bit, fixed up, and maybe even enlarged. But that is the venue these days for the Congressional Cup. And going into today, as you know, Poole, Williams, Borsch, and Egnott Johnson, Nick EJ from New Zealand, they had advanced to the semis. I'm not going to read all this because we know what's happened. I am going to play this video, though. We have a little video going into today's racing that I think is kind of cool, kind of fun. Let's have a look.
The third day of competition at the 58th Congressional Cup had high stakes at play, with the closing stages of the double round robin phase where each of the 10 teams raced against each other twice. Going into the day, USA's Chris Poole of Riptide Racing had set the gold standard. He was unbeatable in the competition so far, but chasing hard was defending Congressional Cup champion and 5-time winner Ian Williams from Great Britain. He was on the charge. Also in contention with a string of wins is Danish star Jeppe Borch in third place, pushing to defend his position. Only 4 teams advance into the semifinal stage out of the 10 starters, so every single match is crucial. With a shifty breeze here in beautiful Long Beach, the race management team ran the remaining 6 heats of matches perfectly. And as the day wore on, 3 of the 4 semifinalists were decided, leaving a tense battle in the final flight between Erik Monnen of Switzerland and the reigning world match racing champion, Nick Egnott Johnson from New Zealand. With just 1 semifinal spot remaining, it was a winner-take-all match, and in the end, Nick came through when it counted most, and Erik and his team were left ruining their chances.
Cool. Well, you know, Congressional Cup, it's always going to come down to the final race, and we've found that each year. And we think that we've just done enough in that last race by managing to get the win over Mon and to scrape through the semi. So we're all stoked, pretty happy, and yeah, can't wait to get stuck into some more racing tomorrow.
Jeppe Borch's talent shone through again, winning 13 out of 18 matches to retain his 3rd place and move into the next stage.
We just finished off the round robin. The scores are being wiped out, and luckily enough we are in the semifinals along with 3 very strong teams, and in a few moments we'll know who will be meeting in the semifinals and fighting for a chance to win Congressional Cup.
Ian Williams drew on all his experience, winning 14 out of 18 over the 3 days, and is yet again into the semifinals with his sights set on a record 6th Congressional Cup title.
I think the guys have got the boat going really fast, and I think that's the biggest thing. So, nice job. We're definitely going fast. We've got a bit of work to do on our starts. I don't think we've won one yet today, so a bit more work to do.
But Chris Poole achieved a truly remarkable feat, winning every single match in his 18 encounters. The question remains, can anyone stop him lifting the coveted Congressional Cup for his very first time?
Today's day 3 of Congressional Cup. We just finished the second round robin. So far it's been pretty good. We haven't lost a race yet. I think we had one penalty go against us on the last race today, and yeah, just trying to keep it clean and sail our boat the way we know how, and everything else is kind of falling into place. And my team's sailing really, really well, and looking forward to the semis.
Join us tomorrow as we begin the semifinals of the 58th Congressional Cup here in Long Beach, California.
That was the video from last night and going into the semis. And as we now know, Chris and Jeppe are going to go at it tomorrow, first to win 3 in the finals. You can watch it. Again, they stream it on their YouTube channel. You just Google Congressional Cup and to their homepage, and it's right up there. So bravo Zulu to them, to the World Match Racing Tour. The group, there is the overall positions after the rounds robin. Chris Poole still undefeated after winning all 3 today. Ian's out. Nick EJ is out. We'll probably have one or the other of them on the commentary tomorrow, on their commentary, and we'll see if Chris or Jeppe, if which of them will prevail. And bravo Zulu also to our good friend and Fozy Gordon Smith, who had it pretty right. I thought Chris Poole would do well, but I was calling in our the other day. I thought that Harry Price might have a better go at it, but he was 6th overall. I did think Nick EJ would be good, and he was. But Jeppe Borsch coming strong, and we'll see if Jeppe or Chris can prevail tomorrow. What is let's see it in the comments, Julia. What do people think? Who do people think will win tomorrow? Gordon Smith, who's, of course, a Brit living in Denmark, Jeppe Borsch, and Emil Kjær is his name. He's a great kid. He's very quiet, but I really like him. Are about to run match racing youth training classes at the Royal Danish Yacht Club at KDY, which is fantastic. Great news, Gordon Smith. Thank you for that. And Clark Chapin back and forth. So many comments. Thank you, Joe Cool, for your kind comment. What else? Poole is undefeated. Yes, Steve Gruber, he's still undefeated. And apparently I see Stingray and others saying that indeed on the run, somehow on the second leg of that race we were watching with Andy, that Chris Poole wiped his penalty by getting a penalty against Ian Williams. And of course, when you owe a penalty and then you get the other team fouls, it offsets and it wipes out your penalty rather than imposing one on the other team. It'd be kind of silly to have them both be circling. Yeah. Look, it might be fun. Double minor penalties, as we used to say in hockey. Dave Hood, the local from Long Beach Yacht Club, not having a great series, but Chris Poole, the other American, is having indeed a great series. He's I don't have to go through all these pictures. I'm going to put. Well, yeah, they're kind of nice pictures. He was 18-0 going in today, and Ian Williams from his China 1 Ningbo team, they were 14-4 going in today. And by the way, we should also say that again, our Fozy, John Sangmeister. You see this photo with Gladstones on the branding this is Ian Williams' shirt. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Ian's being supported again by Gladstones Long Beach. And without, I think, his support, that is John Sangmeister and Gladstones, I'm not sure Ian would have gotten there again this year. But he's also staying at John's home. The teams are all housed by club members. Yeah. It's a 300-person volunteer group at Congressional Cup. And I've been was involved all through the 80s and into the 90s at Congressional Cup. Fantastic event. There is Jeppe Borsch, who went into today 13-5 and has come good getting forward now, as we've said, to the finals. Mm-hmm. And Nick EJ, whose mom, as you know, helmed for Bill Koch in 95 with the all-women's team, his knots racing were 9-9, ended up 4th. Now, what is also interesting is that Chris Poole, undefeated, picked Nick EJ, which is what you would normally do. The first place gets to choose which of the other 3 teams that they will race in the semis. And you would normally pick the 4th place. Jeffrey Peterson, as we said the other day when he was doing the Ficker Cup, said, I'm going to pick the 2nd place team and dispose of them in the semis. And it came back to bite him in the Batinsky. Yep. So whether that was karma or something else, I see that Dave, we got a bunch of bright people in here, Julia. I always say that.
That's true.
Another, God, Another Stanfordite, David James, is saying it is unlucky to be superstitious. Right?
Yes.
Okay, so thanks, John Sangmeister, for supporting these guys. That was the semis. We'll see the finals. I really do like this shot. I mentioned I didn't expect to be seeing it during the live coverage, but I like it when you have two onboard cameras and then you have that shot down at the bottom. The only thing you want to do is that the boat that's on the left in the shot ideally would be in the left on the graphic, and they've got it the other way around up there on top. But that's a small point. But, you know, some of us in the TV business do make small points. It drives Julia nuts. Julia, we got to do this. Well, you're a perfectionist. Well, I'm not exactly, but we just try to do a good job for all of you, as do these people. Not, again, to shout the praises overly so.
They do such
sing
a
the
good
praises,
job,
exactly, of Long Beach Yacht Club and their regatta chair, Bob Piercy, leading, again, this group of 300-plus volunteers, and the very capable Commodore Blair Carty. They're on the right. And bravo Zulu to them and the entire Long Beach Yacht Club for the job they do putting on the Congressional Cup, the granddaddy of all the senior match racing events. Now, finally, I'm pleased to bring today's Coach's Corner with John Emmett. We normally run in the A block, but we had Andy on live, and I know he had to get back to his lawyerly work. Here's John Emmett from this morning.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the Fozy. You join me again on a walk on the beach. Not quite sure if you can see the boats here in the background, but it's a nice sunny day in Weymouth. I'm actually on the lower slope of the beach, so yeah, more likely to be run into by a dog, but I'm not going to fall down the slope like I did last time, probably much to Tom's amusement. Oh, here comes a big boxer. Not sure if you're going to get him on camera. Type of dog, not people who fight. But yeah, now the clocks have changed, it's looking pretty good for the evening sailing. Monday, Wednesday night racing is carrying on at Castle Cove, and of course the social aspect, which is very much a part of our sport and something which I will try really hard to show you. Although it's always a bit noisy at the bar, which makes that more difficult. So just walking alongside the beach and contemplating about Yare Regatta. I call it that, the local name, because obviously it is in Yare, but I guess the proper name is Semaine Olympique Français, probably murdered that, the French Olympic Week for us English speakers, and it's just such a high quality regatta. Ilka class is going to be absolutely full out. They had to close the entries because, well, there's only so much space to put the boats. So it's 120 Ilka 6s, 180 Ilka 7s off the top of my head. And yeah, that's going to be a full boat park. And for a lot of countries, it's going to be the second part of the Olympic trials, deciding who goes, for example, to the test event, to The Hague, and so on and so forth. So a lot of pressure. But even on a normal year, I can see the yachts out ready to go racing. Even on a normal year, it's a very high quality regatta because the base management's good, the venue's good. And I guess this cycle, it's not that dissimilar to Marseille, which is of course the Olympic venue, and logistically I think a lot of people may well go from Yare to the Olympic venue because time there is just so important. But yeah, part of the Olympic trials for a lot of countries, although some have already probably finished their initial part a little bit earlier. The other reason is this idea of hoping for the best and preparing for the worst, and it's going to be the venue for the last chance regatta, and the last chance regatta is exactly what it says on the tin. It's the last chance to qualify for Olympic Games. It will be a very special regatta. It won't be everyone together. It will be those people who are trying to qualify for the Olympic Games in one fleet, and then it will be the people who are doing the normal regatta in another. So getting to know that venue and being completely familiar with that venue will be very important. And I was trying to work out, you know, I've been sort of trying to list my experience and stuff for various job interviews, how many times I've been to Yare, and I guess if you forget about COVID, I've been there every year for pretty much 30 years, and we often go for around 3 weeks at a time. So that's literally years of my life there. So yeah, I definitely feel like a bit of a local. Gonna take the brave step and try and walk up the beach. So see if I can still do this in one take, or if I fall over, there might be a little break. But this idea of venue familiarisation is very important, and we have a few venues in our country that we go to a lot. So in the UK, I mean, obviously Weymouth is probably the most well known, and it's obviously the one we go to the most. So we're going to have the 29er World Championships coming this year. Flying 15s have got their World Championship set up. The RS classes use the venue a huge amount, and that's what happens when I try and move too quickly. And it's just getting to know those key venues. And I look back at 2012, which now seems, wow, it seems a very long time ago. But one of the reasons that we will be successful is knowing the venue really well. So yeah, for a lot of people, Hyères is well known, but for the younger athletes, my top tip is just to get out there early and get the time on the water, even if it means, you know, there wasn't that much break after Palma. And this is the traditional Olympic circuit. And I do get there is a strong European bias. It's been like that for a long time. It's success builds success. And if you want to know how to be successful, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. I think you just need to look at seeing what the most successful people do. And if you look back, my generation, Glenn Bourke wrote a very good book, little Aussie battler, about, you know, how he did his campaign and how he you know, got up to speed, and the things he needed to do. And I think that's as true now as it always was. In fact, if you look at Ben Ainsley's campaign manual, or perhaps more important, Ben Ainsley's autobiography, you'll see that process of trying to be a top sailor and getting through to that. So longer than average chat today. Hope you've enjoyed it. I will try and do a boat park walk round next week. Always difficult when there's so many boats there, but hope you have a wonderful show, and I'll do my best to join you.
You know, the people there in Weymouth must wonder, who is this strange guy that walks up and down the beach with a camera on the end of his stick talking to his camera all the time? They don't realize there's thousands of people watching him around the world.
We should print him the cards
on our show.
Let him tell. Yeah.
John Emmett, as always, much appreciated and interesting. I mean, he's right. We're down to the short proverbial strokes, because they're in Hyères in France next week. And they've just had Palma. He's got a week off. He's coaching again, I guess, a lot of Chinese ILCA sailors, from what I'm hearing.
There are a couple of questions here, which...
Please.
Well, oh gosh, now I lost it. Oh, what's the final date for announcing Olympic participants' names?
Oh gosh, can
a participant be swapped out at the last minute?
It varies by country, because the National Olympic Committee, there is an IOC final deadline. John will know what that is, by when the so-called NGBs, the national governing bodies in the respective countries in the respective sports, have to announce there, and that varies from sport to sport. But I think John's point is that a lot of these countries, and each country, including our own, the U.S., including all of your countries, sets their own selection procedure and criteria, and they might be using these two regattas, for example. The sailors, they don't even have trials at home. They say whoever finishes the highest in these two events, and maybe Kiel, I don't know what else, this summer, and those are the people we will select as our Olympic representatives. The other thing that is going on underneath all this is that countries have to qualify, because it used to be that every country that wanted to send a crew to a given Olympic event could do that. But now that they're pushing down on the number of overall participants at the Olympics in all sports and trying to keep it down under 10,000 people, and they keep adding sports and yada, yada. So our sport has been shrunk quite a bit, and there's no longer the chance for all countries to send representatives in all the classes, as used to be the case. So your country has to go qualify by finishing according to criteria that World Sailing sets at some level in some number of events, yada, yada, in the World Championships to qualify your country. Then you have the right to send a sailor of your choice. however you decide to choose the sailor. Clark Chapin, for 2028, the U.S. as the host country is automatically qualified for each event. Yes, thank you for that. Good point. John is such a legend, Ted Ryman says. I could never talk nonstop for so long. Excellent.
Yeah. A couple of nice comments about John.
There's always nice comments about him. Will the U.S. be running large events for foreign sailors to become accustomed to the conditions? Gordon Smith is asking. Yes, Gordon. We, at least, I'm sure we will. We always did. And there were, in the 84, lead up to the 84 Olympics, we had pre-Olympic regattas in 81, 2, and 3 at Long Beach, run by a completely separate organization because the LA Olympic Organized, LAOC, would not spend the money and commit the resources. They were a very budget
conscious.
Conscious, thank you, budget conscious organization, and they made a pile of money and then spread it out as a legacy to a lot of the sports in this country and beyond. So we formed a thing called OCROC, Olympic Classes Regatta Organizing Committee, that ran, I say we because I was then executive director of USYRU, and we ran Olympic Classes Regattas in Long Beach at the venue in 81, 2, and 3 leading up to the 84 games. And I'm sure that John Shadden and John Sangmeister and whoever else is involved. And by the way, U.S. Sailing, I don't know if I shared with you the whole paperwork that they've sent out for their search committee to replace KR. It's unbelievable. I'm not going to go into that. That'll make me sick to my stomach. Thanks, Clark Chapin, for that. And it looks to me like most people, Julia, think that Chris Poole is going to win tomorrow. I'm with Gordon Smith. After what we just watched, I think Jeppe Borsch is, however you pronounce his name, is going to win. I think he's going to beat Chris Poole tomorrow. I do sort of believe, not in the superstition, but I do think when you've gone undefeated this long in such good competition, keep staying undefeated tomorrow for Chris Poole will be difficult. Mm-hmm. So, John, I don't know what John thinks if he's still on. We shall see tomorrow when we get. That wraps up the John Emmett segment. John Emmett Sailing, get to the front of the fleet, the super coach and Fozy that he is. Ben Nichols is on. Hello, Ben, long time. Julie Aaron's asking, when is Karen going to be on the show? Well, we'll see. Not only has John been steadfastly promoting the ILCA internationally, he has also been working hard promoting the youth in the UK and importantly giving the girls equal coverage. Ben Nichols saying Bravo Zulu, BZ to JE. Clark Chapin saying Poole doesn't need to stay undefeated. He just needs to win the final. Fair enough. But I think he's going to be up against it tomorrow. John Emmett's never up against it. He sends these beautiful, and the quality of these videos is getting better and better.
It is.
And the size of the files is getting bigger and bigger. Yeah. But I won't go to the technicals of what he did today, but he kept the background in focus today. Mm-hmm. The depth of field, he adjusted that so that you could see the water and the wind and nice stuff. Yeah. And he likes to say at this point in the show, which is normally at the top of the show, like, follow, and share. Click that little notification bell if you're on YouTube and also Facebook so you get reminded when we go live. John always says that, and Clark Chapin and others. Julia, do you know what happened on this day in history? The 21st of April, significant to what we're doing, not so much to sailing, but, we are doing sailing here. Mm-hmm. 1820. Here's your first clue.
He's cute.
Gordon Smith, we're dedicating this to you. J. Frederick Bland, stopping down the lens always helps, or HDR function will hold the background. Yep, James Frederick Bland is a man of many talents.
He is.
He's a Renaissance man like his fellow Texan, Jonathan Frank. Size of the files, it's only electrons. How much space do they take up? Well, Clark, speaking of electrons, today's history is about electrons. Mm-hmm. Very interesting. But when you're taking a video and then having to get it to render after he's edited it and so on, and then he's got to stick it up on the internet and send it to me using WeTransfer is what he normally uses, or Dropbox, but normally WeTransfer. And then I've got to download it, then I've got to insert it into my Keynote. These are big files. These are gigabytes worth of files. Mm-hmm. Now, luckily we have, thanks to Julia and the other patrons, we have enough money to maintain our internet service here at a fairly high level. We got a big pipe coming in here to the Beach Street Yacht Club, Julia.
You know, and I'm wondering. It's not the time to talk about it, but we have accumulated a lot of history of the last 15 years or whatever it is. Is that going to end up anyplace?
Here, our shows?
Yeah.
They're online in perpetuity. Facebook and YouTube. God willing.
God willing.
Let's get back to this day in history. Come on. Come on, Gordon Smith. Hans Christian Ørsted. Denmark, 1771. He died in the year of AC 0, 1851. You know how I like history that relates to those years.
Right.
So now we know who's hoarding electrons. The discovery of the electron. No, Clark Chapin, not quite. But this is your second clue, which is a compass.
Compass, yeah.
Among the four great inventions, which we're also going to talk about briefly in a moment, the magnetic compass was first invented as a device for divination as early as the Chinese Han Dynasty, as the Brits would say, dynasty as we would say, circa 206 BC, and later adopted for navigation by the Song Dynasty Chinese during the 11th century. The first usage of a compass recorded in Western Europe and the Islamic world occurred around 1190. Gordon Smith has been Googling. I can hear it in Copenhagen. I can hear it all the way over here in San Francisco. Not the gyro compass. Gordon Smith has got it. Electromagnetic forces discovered. Yes, indeed. And that was this gentleman. And here is, before we get to the gentleman, the four, I didn't know this. You know what the four great inventions are, so according to the Chinese? Well, they say, and they invented them all, they say, are the compass, the aforementioned compass, gunpowder, paper making, and printing. Not the printing press, but printing. So that is the four great inventions. But back to this day in history, there is the gentleman, and as Gordon correctly divined, if you don't mind me making a small pun there, the discovery of electromagnetism on this day, Ørsted's famous experiment showing that electricity and magnetism are linked, took place during a lecture on April 21st, 1820, when Ørsted was 42 years old. In the experiment, he passed electric current through a wire, which caused the nearby magnetic compass needle to move. And, of course, when that happened, a lot of things became, Ampere and all these other people of that era started saying, oh, well, if that is possible, then we can do things like the telegraph. This led to telegraphy directly. It was 30 years later, but and once you had telegraphy, why was telegraphy so important? Well, because you know how long it took to mail stuff in those days? Worldwide postal speeds in 1852. A letter by post from London took 12 days to reach New York, 73 days down at the bottom to reach Sydney. And the Ørsted, now it's all coming tumbling out. Yeah, Fog Machine says that one of the great inventions was the thermos. It keeps hot things hot and cold things cold. How does it know? How did they realize the compass was possible? Amazing the effect it had. Yes, Stingray, it is indeed. Singer, of course, a pretty amazing engineer in his own right and computer coder. Having retired from Boeing as an aircraft company up in Seattle. Ørsted is the name of your power company, our power company in Denmark, Gordon Smith is saying. That's Bullocks. Oh, Jody Shields is on here. Julia finally making a comment. You see his comment?
I did.
Read it.
The four greatest, according to Jody, the four greatest discoveries are beer, beer, and rum.
beer, and rum. Now, who knows about James Clerk Maxwell and the Maxwell equations? Well, we all know about those, right, Clark? Graham Sweeney, who's always clever, he says that he had a magnetic personality. As such, he could never pass a tin bath without getting.
Oh, I have lovely pictures of that.
Yes, that was for sure a great invention. Now I have a digital one in my wristwatch, and I use it all the time. It's hard to believe what we have in our phones, right?
Right.
So today, leading to the Ørsted discovered electromagnetism, 200 years ago, leading to the telegraph and God knows what else. What hath God wrought, as Samuel F.B. Morse said in his first supposed telegraphic message in this country. Dots and dashes in the Morse code, and that gets us to the last leg. Thank God, because it's 14:55 here, almost 2 hours, and I can't talk anymore. Julia, can you talk? You can carry the rest of the show here.
Oh, no, we're doing fine.
Oh, it's good to have Andy on because he can talk,
Oh, yes,
and I so love Andy. He's quite a guy.
I do too.
So that gets us to the finish line. Maura Stevens, our photo we like to dedicate to you and all the rest of our Canadian friends, particularly in the maritime provinces up there in the Northeast. Just a quick note, because there's a lot of stuff going on that we are not able to cover today because of the Congressional Cup and the GovCup announcement. Fantastic to kind of have that live here. But down in Itajaí, earlier today, they ran the import race, an 11th hour racing, led it from wire to wire, start to finish in Itajaí today, Friday. To win, though the win moved the American team to the top of the Import Race Series leaderboard. Light winds of 8 to 10 knots meant the Imoca fleet was unable to get on the foils. That must have been entertaining. But the 2-lap square-shaped course was still challenging for these ocean-going boats, which are not easily maneuvered in tight spaces.
Indeed.
The import racing is used to break ties in the big series in the lake to the big ocean around the world, the Ocean Race Series. An 11th hour today collected 5 points. That was the finishing order: Biotherm second, Team Alicia third, Team Wholesome PRB fourth, and Geo Environment still struggling, only managing to collect 1 point on fifth place, as if that really matters much. Still interesting, I suppose.
And they're still going, which,
Well, they start this Sunday.
Yeah.
That leg 4 up here to North America, to Newport, Rhode Island, little roadie, starts this Sunday, the 23rd of April. And you can watch that live on YouTube as well. That's the finish line, Julia. I love this J24 photo. Thanks to Bill Wingrove down at Davis Island Yacht Club in Tampa. We have a couple jokes from our best jokesters. They're clean, Julia. I had some people saying we're doing too many dick jokes after that last show. You didn't say that, did you?
Well, not that I remember, but
Okay, we've got a funny one. I think, and they're clean. I think so. Somehow I feel sometimes when you call me and say, "Hey, come up here and fix this." I can't get my what was it yesterday? I went up there to fix your Apple iCloud account or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I have tried turning it off. I always say, Julia, have you rebooted your router, rebooted your computer? Yes, I've tried turning it off and on again, and no, it's still on fire. It's the guy's on with the helpline.
That's a good one.
Huh?
That's a good one.
We're going to put that. That's dedicated to you, Julia. Your IT stuff. The other one, that was courtesy of Ed Worley. Thank you, Ed. Yeah. Now this... We wanted to write in there. We wanted to just put in a little bit over here, and I didn't have time. We're going to put a 777 in there.
Yeah.
Because it looks a little bit like Jonathan Frank.
It does.
Right? And Ryman sent that to me, and he said, that looks like our 777 pilot, right?
Right.
That's obviously outside the airplane window. So we post that in honor of Jonathan Frank down in Houston and Galveston, Texas. Courtesy of Ted Ryman. Thank you, Ted, for that. Julia, your witness.
Yes. Please like, follow, and share, and especially for the parents of young sailors to known and unknown, because it's a...
Isn't it nice to promo these kids,
Yeah.
to have these kids and show the world, and that so many of the parents were on. I'm not sure everybody was on, made comments. Some of them did, obviously. But
they would be intimidated for one reason.
some people, I don't know why, because our Fozy are so polite, and I'm not polite, but you are always polite. So I don't know why they'd be intimidated. But if you're new here, please do come on and give us your comments. We get so very few negative comments, but we appreciate everybody who does come on. And even if you're just lurking, if you're watching, you're more than welcome. Become a patron, please, if you would, at Patreon. patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated and give us a few bucks a month so that we can stay on the air, because we don't generally have sponsors. We pretty much have.
Unless you have a great urge to be a sponsor.
If you want to be a sponsor, but even then, we're not real wild about having
No.
sponsors, because we want to be able to say what we say and say what we mean and mean what we say,
Right.
without any interference.
Right.
This is viewer supported
Free speech.
television and free speech too. We want to thank those who, of course, as we do always at the bottom of the show, thanks to those who gave us these pictures and the videos and the audio for today's show. Ted Ryman, thank you. I love it when Andy Rose is on TFE, another legend. He is a legend. And as Stingray is saying, have a great weekend, everybody. Julie, last thoughts?
Yes, let's have a great weekend.
Okay. It's beautiful weather here. It's
It
spring.
is.
You look so springy.
Well, that's the whole point.
That is the whole point. Okay, thanks, everybody. Hope you do have a great weekend. Remember, tomorrow is Earth Day. We will celebrate that. I mean, we're all trying to keep the planet clean. I don't know about some of this other stuff that's going on with green policies and so on, but at least pollution and keeping the Earth clean is always a good objective tomorrow, and it's already tomorrow down under for Jody and co. in Australia and New Zealand and beyond. We hope to see you on Tuesday, same time, same channel. Go sailing this weekend. And if you do, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. See you Tuesday. Ciao for now.